Kokinak semdol kake mofaseda.
This is Talking in Stations, a podcast about EVE Online, although we're considering rebranding to tech support in stations. More on that later. This week on the show, I of course am Artemis Albosa, a member of Noir. Joining me today, again, he's back. Work has calmed down, and we welcome him with open arms. Silver Suspiria, a member of Federation Uprising.
I'm back. Sorry I missed last week, guys. I like Pred, and I was looking forward to that show. I heard it was a good one.
It was a fun show. We, as you mentioned, had Predator Elite, a member of... Holy cow, the name escapes me. Dockworkers, there we go. My memory is just recently. I need more caffeine, I think. But this week's show is going to be even more fun. At least I think so. We'll find out. Because on this week's show, we have an alliance called You're Dunked. And I specifically introduced the alliance before the characters, or before the guests, rather, because we're going to do something a bit different. We're going to introduce them with their corporation names because they're pretty fantastic, rather than their alliance names. So no, they're a member of the alliance. You're Dunked. You are space dunked. But we're gonna introduce them with their respective corporations. So first, in alphabetical order, is Dank Guy, a member of It Would Have Lived If It Were a Shield Super.
Hello, that's me.
Is it really you, though? Is it really?
Yes.
Well, that's good to know.
Unless we live in a simulation. Then I don't know what it is.
What is the Matrix?
That's a good question. Well, never mind.
And
we don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Yes. Thanks, Dank Guy. Moving on. We have Risa Shimamoto, a member of Daisy Ridley's fan club.
What's up? It's me, Risa Shimamoto here.
Here we go again.
You guys think that we're going to be talking about EVE Online, but this is really going to be a smooth jazz hour hosted by this man with his lovely voice.
Indeed, you've been tricked.
All right, well, let's jump right into not a jazz hour, actually an EVE Online podcast where we talk about the alliance within EVE Online known as You're Dunked. But before we talk about the alliance in general or in particular, depending on your perspective, we're going to talk about the guests that we have, because we find it helps if the listeners get a better idea for who you guys are, what your player history is. That way they have a better grasp on your perspectives on EVE Online. So let's go in alphabetical order once again and kick things off with Dank Guy. Tell us about your player history.
Okay, so maybe I'll do a better job this time, I guess, because clearly I sucked last time. But anyway, so my time started when a friend of mine got me and some others to play this game when, it went free to play like 3.5 years ago or so. And we legit did Condor rooms from Jita. It was awesome. I didn't know what was going on at all. I'm like, go that way, shoot that thing, whatever. And anyway, after that, we'd spent like a good month playing, and we ended up in nullsec in T-null and some little group rented from somebody. I don't know all the details, but that's how I got into null, I guess, at first. And we grabbed and did some fleets and did what people in null do. And after some time, that group kind of collapsed, and me and the guys that I was playing with kind of found ourselves, well, what do we do? Do we follow them wherever they're going or not? And we ended up kind of not. And this might become more relevant later, but we ended up living in low sec close to Jita, doing some PvP, some gate camping, and we would, this is really funny, we would send our alts into Vale to like Ninja Rat make money. It was pretty good. But through some weird events, we let's see, maybe I should backtrack a little bit. Me and my partner in crime here in the podcast found ourselves then in nullsec near Shalupin a little bit after, and then followed by Pia and followed by You're Dunked. Silver, you're keying up and echoing me, sorry. And I don't know. That's where I've been.
Well, right on. Well, I mean,
I guess
you're
I
not
skipped
in
a lot of
Wall Satchny
details, but we're
anymore.
no, we're not. Was I not keyed up when I talked to Rest?
We'll figure it out. TLDR, you started out as an alpha, which is pretty cool. Did you find that experience limiting? Because you started back when they still could only fly like frigates and stuff. You could even fly cruisers or battle cruisers or battleships, right?
I didn't really know enough about the game, to be honest. I was
fair
like,
enough.
this is my little Merlin or my Condor, and this is what it does.
Sweet. All right, let's head over to Risa. What's your player history for us?
So it all started in the little Alpha Rush in 2016. I started in December, so a little bit after the like a month after it started, and I started with a couple friends. We were mining in high sec, and like a week later, they started not playing anymore. They just basically quit. You know how a lot of high sec mining does to a lot of people. And I, a PvPer who likes to, PvP in other video games and whatnot, I looked for a corp, and I just joined Pandemic Horde. So after I joined Pandemic Horde, I just basically learned a lot of things in Pandemic Horde. I had a baller time in there, and that's where I got my first carrier. That's where I lost my first carrier, and everything else. So one day I was sitting in a broadsword waiting to drop someone, because that was my first time I was gonna hyping myself up to solo drop someone. And a guy came in local. He was Italian, goes by the name of Gruert Lunelik, and he was yelling about, you shouldn't drop people, blah blah blah, you should small gang PvP, you like small gang PvP, right? And I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty cool, I like to do that. And so he talked me into his corp, Mosquito Squadron, and that corporation was in the culture that lived in Fountain at the time. And I went with them and I PvP'd with him. He was a really good FC. I know he could really tell the tide of the battle. And I was just like, wow, this guy, we can take so many things on. And so I learned a lot from him. So the culture broke up, and I basically moved to Vale, where I knew Dank Guy. So that's with my story with him begins, basically.
Right on. Well, let's continue that story, follow that thread into the formation of the alliance called Your Dunked. Many people have speculated that the alliance was formed merely as an alt alliance for Snuffed Out because they wanted to play with Sav up in Vale the Silent. Can we confirm or deny? Was that true or false?
False.
That is 100% false.
I was expecting you to say true there, Risa, and just have this thing go into chaos. But okay, we're decided you're not, in fact, a Snuff Alt Alliance.
CCP gives us chaos, not us.
Fair enough. Maybe we can get the Your Dunked Alliance logo up on stream, but it is rather amusing. Is there a story behind why you guys chose that in particular? Like, you picked up the whole we're Snuff Alts and ran with it?
Well, where's the original picture? I don't have it.
I think I have it. I'll post
well, we need to see it.
While we're looking for it, let's talk about the actual alliance formation rather than the community speculation. What's the story there?
So basically, This is when me and Dank we moved into NSH. And basically NSH, Null Sanction Shalupin, they lived in Great Wildlands and they hunted supers. They did a lot of Black Ops activity. So that's the core of your dunk that we took from NSH and basically just put it into your dunk.
We thought it was fun to drop people, camp, and whatever.
We really thought it was like fun, like a lot of fun. That's like all we did basically.
So why did you need to leave Nelsechnia? Did something happen that you couldn't do that content there anymore?
Well,
kinda.
over in that region, yeah, we kind of stomped all of the little guys out, and content was like waning, and that was like right after the Battle of SeaTag. That was an amazing fight.
Oh yeah, we were there, weren't we?
Yeah, we were. That was like towards the end of Null Secnian's life. So PL was kind of prodding NSH to join them, so we all joined the same corp, and then we went into NSH, and
we went into PL.
Oh, sorry, PL, and we got into these big fleet fights, and we didn't really like.
Oh, we were at UALX. Oh, it was bad.
Yeah,
dude.
that was the turning point.
At some point, at like 3 in the morning, I think my client crashed again, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm not even logging in again. Oh.
Yeah, I remember I was in that fight, and I was in my Serb, and I looked at the clock, and I had to go to work tomorrow, and I just X'd my client, and I was just like, I don't like this. I hate this.
Tie-dye has strange effects on different people.
Yeah.
Tie-dye is my brain. A little bit. It's probably a factor, but a further factor is that a lot of people who fly with us and who pretty much spend most of their time in game, playing with us, were in Snuff, and Snuff was alive. So that probably contributed a huge amount, that we were just constantly dropping and killing people with Snuff members.
I suppose for the podcast listeners who can't view the stream or are watching on YouTube later, the logo is apparently the original was a picture of a dog, but then it has been grayscaled, like the white turned to black and put in a negative, and then the goggles put on like the Snuff logo is. So it's got the same color scheme as the Snuff logo, and it's got the goggles from the Snuff logo, but instead of like a skull, it's a dog's face.
The dunk goggles, that's what those are.
That dog has a crazy smile, like holy cow.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, the original picture was from 4chan, and people like to post that dog with the goggles a lot. And so I basically just like took that and yeah, this is gonna be a really nice look.
And CCP pushed it through. Right on.
It took like a year, but they did it.
All right, so you're an alliance. You've got a logo. You've got some dudes who are super enthusiastic about blops. Where do you go from there?
Well, this kind of could tie in with what we were talking about earlier. So while we were in our brief time in the pandemic blob, we had been PvPing around in the Forge and Lone Trek Low Sec, near Vale and Tribute, and we kind of liked it there. And we had been spending a lot of time there just hunting and killing stuff and whatever. And so after we were not in PL anymore, we ended up deciding to go there. And from there, I don't know, we had everybody in their own private corps, because for some reason we just did that. And doing what we do. And I guess at some point we just thought it would be funny to make it an alliance, and we wanted to call ourselves something slightly toxic, smug, sort of, like when you hot drop on somebody and don't give them a chance, nothing like that. I don't know, we thought it was funny. That's it. Maybe there's more details you want to add.
I feel like that very much fits the culture of your group. You just do things because they're fun or because they're funny, and I find that to be rather refreshing in a game of tryhards and political people and stuff like that. Like, nothing against you, everybody's doing what they find fun, but what you guys find fun seems much more actually funny.
A lot of people would call us tryhards in a different way than you reference, but yeah, sure.
Well, I like the name too because it helps with recruiting anyway. To have sort of a light and funny name, I find gets more attention than like a super serious one. I mean, the breadth of people that'll be looking at your corp is broader, right? Like if you have like a really RP one, you're only going to get like RPers. If you have one that's like too far on the scale of edgy, you're not going to get like edgelords. But yours is like right in the middle of like, yeah, those guys look fun.
Well, it's funny because that's a good point, but we don't really look for new people. We get new people through friends and other such connections, but we don't really take applications. I don't want to sound elitist like that, but I don't know, we just don't. Because if we did, we would probably have more people than we care to put up with.
I suppose now's a good time to mention, according to Ezekiel, you guys have 38 members. So you are officially the smallest alliance we've had on the show as part of our continued series of what does LoSec look like in 2020.
Well, that number is a bit deceitful.
Oh, okay. Well, that sounds like an interesting story.
I guess I should explain. So we have a lot of people that hang out with us who aren't actually in the alliance for various reasons. Maybe they have friends elsewhere, or they like to occasionally do some fleet content or whatever. But despite that, such people spend a lot of their time hanging out with us and dropping people with us, and so it makes us look like we're alt alliances of various others. Snuff. And yeah.
So then you
also,
are an alt alliance, just not a Snuff alt alliance.
No, sorry.
No.
No.
I swear.
Our main
promise.
Okay.
Pinky promise.
It's true, but we have friends who we would consider to basically be members, but who aren't officially.
Right on. I mean, that I'm completely cool with that. Like, it's been a long time request of members of the CSM, members of the community, that the alliance structure really doesn't fit the way that players in EVE organize themselves. If you look like at the coalition level, coalitions completely bypass the structure. Even within alliances, you have SIGs nowadays, which are corporations are made useless. And people have requested like social groups where you're not in the same alliance, you don't have to deal with those sorts of mechanics, but you still fly together. It seems like you guys very much are, the mechanics of alliances and corporations don't benefit us in any way, so we just fly in the alliance we want to fly with, or the one which has the coolest name, and then we do our thing.
Well, we also have a ton of out-of-corp alts.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, Artemis. Like, the structure with way corporations and alliances work, if we're free up a little bit, would lead to better content. Like, you guys are just like flying with whoever's doing something that day, or like, what content looks good to you. I've often wanted like a hangar with an ACL access. Do you guys think that would benefit? Like, if I could share my hangar with an ACL with a group that I'm flying with that night, so that we can give out chips and stuff, like, that's one of those constructs I wish would exist and probably help your style. No?
Oh man, you have no idea.
We have something for that. We have a out of corp thing where we have like some of our hunting characters in, and everyone has access to the fleet hangar. So then we just kind of pulled that out when needed. And it also acts as our alliance wall.
Imagine if it had an ACL hangar, though. Oh,
Yeah, then you wouldn't have to trade ships to alts and stuff. Like, you could just go in the hangar and grab what you're looking for and head out.
Yeah, that would be way more streamlined.
that would be woke.
I would really look forward to that. Like the bookmarks thing, it was like a long time thing that I wanted, and it's finally here. So I'm just gonna wait for that Corp Hanger ACL thing, and hopefully in the future.
Right on. Are we feeling like we want to jump into your gameplay, or is there still some more history that we want to tell?
I mean, there's a bunch of history before that we could talk about
We'd be here all
that
day.
helped us in our gameplay. there's
Give
a lot
us
of
the
funny
highlights.
stories. Well, here's a highlight. When we got Von Hold.
Oh,
So
you
if
guys
those
know
don't
what that
know,
is, right?
yeah, those who don't know what being a Von Hold is basically if you operate a Black Ops battleship and you kill some targets, and then your next target you drop on, and a Stero decloaks on you, scrams you, and lights a Sino, and then a Nidhogger comes through, and that's Frederick Von Hole, and he kills you with the Nidhogger. That's being Von Hold.
A lot of people have been Von Hol.
Yeah,
So
a lot of people.
That's how you get your name turned into an Eve term.
Yeah,
A lot of Alliance tournament ships have been Von Hold, notably.
Yeah, so we call that like a rite of passage, basically. Like, you're not a real blobster if you haven't been Von Hold yet, and that's kind of the joke we go around. But we have like a page of botting Tengus that we've killed right before we've gotten Von Hold, and we've killed a lot of botting Tengus. The story behind all these Tengu kills was basically our corp in Rate My Ticks was not blue to Here Be Dragons or the guys up in Branch, but the guys in Branch had our hunting characters set blue. And so the bots wouldn't recognize that because we were blue in system. So we would drop in with hunt them with our blue hunter and actually just light a Sino, and we'd have a SIBO blobs scram them before they can warp off.
We made
And-
some dosh doing that. It was a good time. And like a page of kill.
Yeah, that it was a lot of Tengus.
That was the first time that we went out somewhere and did some blob. And we just discovered that by accident. We thought it was hilarious. But apparently so did the Frederick man, and he killed us.
Yeah, when he came in, and we just didn't know what happened.
We had no
thought,
idea
like,
what that was.
we thought the alliance that we were killing, like, just killed us with a Nidhogger, and that day, Dank I had to go somewhere after that, and I started talking to him, and he was a really nice guy to talk to. He told me about all the bots in Wasa, or what's that?
Which one? Drone lands?
Yeah, drone lands.
Air balls? Malpas? Passage?
Yeah, he basically told us to kill a bunch of those bots, and we shared corpse with him to like Blue Scout and whatnot, and we learned a lot of hunting things from him. So that was a really nice experience. It was a really nice interaction too.
I remember getting back and you told me that you were talking with him, and I'm like, what? You told me that the the guys who killed us weren't weren't the same, and I was like, oh, that just made me feel better, It made me feel like, oh, I didn't get killed by some like bot master. That's nice.
Yeah.
Wow, at least I got killed by someone who's actually good at it.
Oh yeah, that was my first blocks loss, and I was like, wow, that guy just killed me.
Like a
Boss.
tick from getting out.
I was really close to getting out. So the Estero decloaked, and I was just like, oh man, what's going on? So I locked it quickly and overheated my guns on it while burning away. And 2 carriers came in. I started my MJD spoil, and right as I was about to MJD away, the carrier scanned me.
Oof.
Sirens don't work. They use local scrams. Sirens you can MJD away from. Also, paired up with skirmish links, the local scrams are actually pretty decent range. You get them like probably at least 13 cold and 15 or so hot. That's not bad at all. Abyssal, it's even higher. But I forget where I was going with that completely. Carry.
Well, fair enough.
I'm stupid.
Let's continue on talking. So we're looking back at a time when you guys weren't in your alliance yet.
So this was quite a bit before then, yeah.
How did we go from Dank Guy in his own little corporation and Risa still in PL at this point, from my understanding? Or at least didn't rate my ticks.
Yeah, rate my ticks.
How'd we go from there to where we are today?
Well, we kind of went over this, but we basically got invited to join Nullsecnia by a guy who had seen us all over the place in Vale and the Forge and Lone Trek, and thought that what we did was kind of funny with our like ninja crabbing alts and gate camping and PvPing and dropping on stuff, and
that was right before we deployed our supers to Gemini. Or right after.
Yeah. And then there's Dumbo.
What happened there? You deployed supers to Gemini. Was this when Horde was still living in Gemini?
This was when the Russians were, and Dumbo, me on my main in a super from the Myler Keepstar, thought that it would be funny to try and go and kill carriers there. And we actually did get a couple. I mean, that's far from a huge result for a quote unquote deployment. I don't really think that's the right word, but whatever. But like I don't know, it was just such a rush for us. I don't know, just like dropping my super in hostile space, like, wow, oh man, that's so much fun.
Yeah, first time we went there, like, I think I was just like, oh man, we can kill these ratting carriers there, because what we like to do is we like to look at people on the kill board, see what they do, and we saw a couple people soloing people in supers and soloing other carriers in supers, and we were like, yeah, we want to do that. So we first went there. We were kind of like, all right, we're gonna do this. And we had an Estero come in and pretend like he was exploring, and the guy in the carrier that was riding at the time was just like, it's just an Estero. So he went back to ratting, and so our Estero tackled him when he went back to ratting, and then that's the first time we jumped in and killed something with supers. Well, killed another carrier with
Killed
super.
another capital with gang supers. That was
Yeah.
like it's unimpressive, I guess, to us now maybe, but like at the time, like wow, that was a rush, you know.
Curious. So you went from that to, I'm just trying to understand the timeline of events, because I know various points within your history, one of which is you guys were temporarily Sov holding up in Vale, and then now present day you're hunting around in Losec. I'm trying to understand, like, fill in the holes before you tell me of how that transition happened. And it's just, I cannot imagine a situation in my mind where that transition occurs. So I really want to know, what is the actual story? Like, why did you guys go from dropping your supers or YOLOing your supers over in Drone Lands to owning Sov and Vale, and then to haunting Blackrise?
Okay, maybe I guess I should clarify that the events we've been talking about have been completely out of order.
Yeah, they've
Well,
been
I hope that
really
you
out
didn't
of
think
it.
they were in order, because they're not in order at all.
Yeah,
But
can we get a chronological
point.
recap then?
If you want to talk about, like, especially the Sov, I guess that has people curious. So we had been a thing. We had been a thing in Losec for some time, maybe a few months. I forget. I think 3 or 4 months. And so, of course, as we all know, goons came and glassed Vale and Tribute, and well, we kind of thought that was funny. Like, screw NC Dot, haha, sucks to be them, you know. And then after they left, when the whole like drifter scare happened, and they scurried on back to Delve, and NC Dot and PL scurried on over to the Drone Lands, and nobody was left. And we were like, oh, you know, it'd be funny is if we took a few systems. That'd be funny, haha. And then we took a pocket and put some like ratting alts there and started to rent it a little bit and whatever. And I don't know, that became a thing. I don't know, we had it for, how long did we have it for? A few months?
Yeah, a few months, and
I think we had it for
keep in
almost
mind-
6 months, 5 months.
yeah, this Sov holding period that we had. We've been hunting in Alv ever since we left PL, so we were well established in Nalvula area before we took this off.
Yeah, like we were there even when NC Dot and PO were living there. You know, we would sometimes go into Null and hunt the renters and drop on stuff there, but most of the time we would stick in Losec. And well, yeah, I don't know. We just kind of took an opportunity. We were like, wow, that'd be funny. And that was mostly Risa and Toasting, and it's his little thing. And one thing that was really nice for us that came out of that was we had a bait beacon in P3EN, which was in range of Jita. So every now
Can
and then
you define what that means for someone unfamiliar?
Yeah,
What is a bait beacon?
a public jump beacon, which means that any ship with a jump drive can see this in their jump menu. And let's remind ourselves that the option is very close. The option of jumping to the public beacon is very, very close. Just a little bit of a slip, and you will find yourself at a public jump beacon instead of your, which is not what you want to do. Because, you know, we were camping it with a anti-capital fitted hut.
Did you just have someone watching it 24/7, or how did that?
Not really 24/7. When we were online, it was usually me that would put a pilot in the gunner seat on the. I would just have it on another monitor. Well, I use Evo Preview to provide me a better overview, but yeah, it was just one of my views.
Yeah, and also there was a time where that beacon was watched 24/7 because we had other friends from different time zones, watching it. So we had like 24/7 coverage, and they've gotten a few things from the beacon. A couple of jump freighters jumped there.
He killed the only Titan that has ever died at a public beacon. He self-destructed.
Yeah. Yeah, the only Titan that jumped to a public beacon died there.
Well,
Wow.
the story is that others have jumped to public beacons. I know that one has jumped to the currently still active public beacon in JTAC-G. However, he was close to downtime and he logged off or survived until DT. I've heard rumors that the beacon in, I think, EOA and Geminate has seen a few PanFam Titans caught, but you know, they tended to be brick tanked and in range of their own stuff, so they would get saved.
Right
Maybe I'm
on.
thinking of a different one.
You
So-
briefly, like, casually mentioned there that you did some renting out of your space while
We did.
you're just like in passing saying, "Oh yeah, we did a bit of rental." Like, how did that happen? What's the story there?
Yeah, basically, while we were taking the space, a few people contacted me and they're like, "Are you the new landlords there?" Some were Russian and some were Chinese, and they're basically just abandoned by NC and still paying RMT. So I basically took them under my wing in the Sov. And
We should
rented
say
them
that
out.
they weren't RMTing, they were paying rate my tick.
Yeah, they're
Since
sorry.
someone might use that'd be
Yeah, they were still paying rate my ticks, even though PanFem wasn't in the area anymore. So I just said, wouldn't it be funny if your dunked had renters? So I created the alliance I'm dunked and put them into I'm dunked, and they rented for a few months.
Right on. What at the end of it, what brought your empire, so to speak, in Vale to a close?
well, it had been a point of frustration for us for a while that we would constantly have to show up for like Entosis timers and silly structures, and it was just like, ugh, I have to go into null and defend something, ugh. And we didn't really like it.
Yeah,
And it was tolerable for a while, like every now and then we'd have like a troll toaster or whatever, but eventually I think Test had like a big deployment of a bunch of people up to Lowsec in the area, and they were constantly messing with our stuff, and we thought it was pretty annoying, but I don't know, they were mostly manageable because they were EU time zone players and our stuff was timed in US. But at some point we still just got tired of it, and we ended up just offering to sell our Sov to a different alliance in Vale, and they accepted. And we received payment, and we self-destructed everything, all the Sov structures, and they put their own down, and that was the end.
Who was that? Who'd you sell it to?
That was Worthless Crabs.
Are you like making fun of them, or is that their actual name?
No, that's actually their name.
That's an alliance name, yeah.
Are they
we
actual
had
crabs,
no-
or is this a bait?
I don't
I
know.
really am curious.
We are not involved with them at all. We don't know. We know that they do some grabbing like people do, and
yeah, they did a ton of grabbing with carriers and whatnot.
Yeah, I've seen them out though. Like you
They were
guys. I'm sure you guys are
big
painfully aware that well, not painfully. Well, I'm painfully aware that you guys are still in Avula, but FedUp has been deployed up north, and they hang out there and they come out and fight too. I mean, they're not just crabs, but
I kind of feel bad for them right now. They kind of got shafted by a bunch of groups in the area.
it does seem like they got the short end of the stick there, where all these groups have moved in, like Trigger and Rote and Outspoken and all these other groups, and like these guys are kind of getting pushed around. Like, what's the deal with them? I know it's a bit of a tangent, but I'm curious.
Yeah, I really don't.
I feel like they kind of overextended a little bit and got burned out with having 2 pockets in Vale.
Yeah, and you're probably right.
Yeah, because I noticed like a lack of activity like immediately, like maybe a week or 2 after they bought our Solve.
Personally, I feel like the pocket that we sold them was much better than the one that they had. If I was in their position, I would have abandoned it completely and moved into the new one. But they kind of tried to have both, and I guess it couldn't really.
So you guys sell your Sov, and you firmly plant in Alvula. That's what happens, because the chat's asking, because I did mention, my running is into you recently in Alvula. Is there something between there that we haven't covered?
We have always, and Alvula has always been, home base. The stuff in Null was purely secondary.
Gotcha.
But after selling it, we no longer had to leave low sec to go and deal with crap in Null, unless there was somebody to kill there.
Right, so to answer the chat's question, one of your activities in low sec is to just own Nalvula, especially the Jan, the high sec gate there. You sort of terrorize anyone that's because Nalvula is an interesting system, because it's like a very big choke point between high sec, low sec, and null sec. So if you are going from Jita into low sec over there, or you want to get up into Veil of Silent, you the short way to go through is the Jan gate and into Nalvula. And these guys here have made that a very dangerous gate, and not just your typical gate camp. You guys are there with cloak dictors and supers, like Hictors and supers and all kinds of fun toys. And we became painfully aware of that, because we're like, oh yeah, we'll set up a stage in Alvula. You guys just camp the gate, right? Well, you control the station too, and we got hell camped in one night, so that was fun.
Oh man, you don't even know how much we were laughing on comms. It was a good time.
Yeah, so I tried to so we had known that you guys were there, right? So I set up in a couple systems over, and I was like, you know what? We're done. Get your pods and get out of here. And couldn't, because you guys had smart bombing Mercurials. But there are other groups that you work with in this little terrorism group that you got there, right? Like Trigger is always around. Like, what's your relationship with Trigger, and how are they playing with this role that you guys have?
We most of our relationship with Trigger is with Elitist Ops, which is a corp and Trigger, and a bunch of them.
So wait, whoa. You guys maintain that you're not a Snuff alt corp, but
yes.
Elitist Ops you work with all the time. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we work with a bunch of people in there. They hang out with us and drop stuff. Yeah. No, I'm serious though.
No,
in fact, we are neutral.
Your chops. It's just funny because you have the reputation of being like Snuff alts, and you say no, but then you work very closely with Elitist Ops, which was U.S. time zone, very famous Snuff. So it's just funny.
It's mostly there's 4, 5, 6 people in there that hang out with us a lot.
Yeah, it's always the same group of guys, and I assume you were just friends and stuff. And I also assume that since you work with Elitist Ops, it made it easy for you to know when I was coming, because I'm fairly certain they still get my pings and stuff.
Which I don't even remember which incident you're referring to. I remember there was a time when we had observed a fight going on in MTACO between Rote and you guys were in, I think, Nagas or something, and we thought it would be really funny to cloak a bunch of Hictors on the gate when you guys would come into Nalvula, and then when you guys came in, you guys all spiked in, and we decloaked the Hictors, and we worked a bunch of hyperspatial supers in and started blapping everything we could. And I don't remember how many we killed, but
it was probably 6 or 8 of them when we came through the gate.
We were giggling.
And I could think the couple nights before, we had the hell camp in station there.
I think that was a few nights after, but
that might have been after.
Somebody saw you guys all were spiking in a system and was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna sit there in a Hictor." And then I warped in a fax and a Balgorn or something, and then before long we had a bunch of carriers and fax and heavy armor battleships and Hictors just sitting around on the station.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Real quick,
it was amusing. Go ahead.
I'm curious. You guys are dropping supers a lot in NoSec, and there's been a lot of discussion on talking stations throughout our various discussions with other LowSec groups about the use of supers in LowSec and how no one can really compete with the super capital superiority of Wangs. And then there's also the notion of if anybody wants to try and sort of build up that super capital force, you have to contain with the hunters, particularly up in like the Blackrise area. Is it Ivana Trading or whoever they're called? I always forget their name.
Ivana they live around Mid-Matarlosec, not Blackrise.
Yeah, like Metropolis.
Who is the Blackrise? There was one group who lived in Blackrise who hunted supers, and I forget who they are. It wasn't Snuff. Am I just insane?
I'm pretty sure it would definitely have been Snuff, right?
Yeah, I think it was because I actually had an encounter with them when I was moving to NSH in my Wyvern. They were hunting me and they almost got me going to Great Wildlands. I think it was like Wangs or I don't know some.
Would have been a subgroup within there.
Yeah, I can see in a minute.
I'm gonna do some Z-Kill sleuthing to find out, but in the meantime, let's talk about the situation regarding super capital usage in Losec. Are you being hunted? Are you like the hunters, so there is not a bigger fish? How's the situation there?
Sorry, go ahead.
We are being hunted. So you have to pretend that you're always being hunted, but we do most of the hunting around here, and we actually had one incident where we almost lost a super to Wings because there was a freighter autopiloting, and we all tackled it in Nalvula, and we bumped it off, and Gangrene, one of our buddies, warped in his super, and there's combat probes in the air, and a pacifier decloaked on top of his Nyx and lit a covert Sino. From that covert Sino came I think it was a pilgrim that lit a regular Sino, and then just a whole swath of dreads came in. And right before he got pointed by a Hector, he jumped out to a exit Sino.
Oof.
Yeah, that was close.
Yeah,
This is Wangs.
This was Wangs, and that right there was the closest encounter we've ever been with a super.
So you have to be constantly vigilant. Like even though you're dropping, in many groups' eyes, you are the big fish. You are still like constantly being, or under the threat of being eaten by an even bigger one. Is that what I'm getting here?
Yeah, and
It's more
I'm
like you just have
sure-
to be aware of like some bigger group being in the area and trying to bait you or something like that.
Yeah,
Because, on a normal day, we're the ones doing baiting and dropping on stuff and the biggest fish around Navula, I suppose. But, if anybody else has got a dread cache stage somewhere or something and a nice bait, they could try to frag.
yeah, you just have to be really vigilant.
So apart from gate camping, station camping with smart bomb and materials, which is fantastic, and dropping supers on stuff, is there any other portions of your daily content that we haven't discussed?
So we mostly what we do is I guess this kind of goes into what we've been talking about. A lot of our gameplay revolves around we just sit around and do nothing until somebody with a scout Sino tune somewhere spots, and then we'll go and drop. And we have Sino tunes all over the place. Our goal is to cover everywhere in range of our home. We will have a Sino tune, tune being shorthand for character for some maybe who don't know, and be able to see everything that's going on. We're not there yet, but we are getting darn close. We had 50 characters in fleet the other night, and the number on comms was like 10, I think.
Yeah, it was around 10. We had almost 60 characters in fleet.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That is pretty crazy.
that's basically how we roll most of the time. You know, somebody will see something and we'll just drop Black Ops on it usually. Get a kill mail, some loot.
So I was always wondering, like, you're not the first group to operate like that. You know, there was groups like EE back in the day that would specialize in just like hanging and hunting, and then, you know, pouncing on a target. What are you doing in the downtime between targets?
Playing other games.
Playing other games, talking on comms, theory crafting. I don't know. What do people? There's nothing going on, I guess.
Yeah, basically. Usually I'm playing another game or just doing something else, talking, hanging out.
Right on. I find it very interesting. I know that's something I do a lot, and it's actually something quite often people will lament ratting, like AFK ratting or Rorqual mining or things like that, basically mindless tasks, so to speak, and say that it doesn't belong in the game. If you're playing Eve, you should have to be actively playing Eve. But I personally quite enjoy being able to do stuff in Eve and also like watch Netflix or play Stellaris or what have you, but then just still keeping an eye on Eve because maybe something will happen there. And it seems like you guys have found the PvP end of that stick where you can do stuff in Eve, still hang out with the buddies that you enjoy talking with and gaming with, and then also do whatever it is that you find fun.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and it's just like people come to us, and sometimes we see activity maybe a mid away, and then we'll go to them and try to kill them.
We also like to bait sometimes if we see somebody around our space who has a kill board that indicates flying a shiny ship. We'll whip out some bait characters and try to get them to go for us.
Is that what happened, like, most recently? Is this just today or yesterday on your kill board? There are a bunch of dead dreads and some citadels. Was that a bait thing, or was it one of the you were bat phoned a mid away?
No.
That is
Oh, that's a story.
Can of worms.
Okay, so I guess I can start from the top, but those guys, those guys always lived in that system and did whatever they do. I don't know. And I decided, because they killed one of my hunter characters once, I was kind of annoyed and just decided I was going to grind a few structures until I made my money back. And so I did. We did, I guess. I enlisted the crew to help me out with it, and we killed a bunch of structures. And on the third kill timer, we were getting pretty suspicious because they had a bunch of dudes in local, ton of dudes hanging out in local, like 10, 11. I mean, that's way more than they usually have. And we thought, well, maybe they've got something planned here. So we decided to, instead of the carriers that we'd been using, we would use a heavily tanked Revelation to run the timer and see what they bring. And that's what they brought.
Wow. And so then you just dropped the hammer?
No, actually, it was really interesting what happened. Actually,
This is a really interesting fun.
so at first they had called aggressively average to help him with this time, and at first they didn't do anything. They let me run almost the entire timer without messing with me, and at a point they being aggressively average came in with a bunch of like small trash, right? Like Kikimora, Retribution, a couple of NTs, and they started messing with me, right? They started pointing me and holding me. And I pretty much ignored them. I just finished the timer, killed the Citadel, and Well, then we had to get me out. So we brought up a Sino and bridged in a little bit of our fleet. We bridged in like a Balgorn and a Vindicator and a Loki, I think, to just chase them off. And we were about to leave the grid. Like we had got everything out. Or sorry, got everything detackled. And we decided, well, no, hang on. They just undocked some dreads. Let's stay and take it. And we did. They warped in the dreads. They did their best to keep us pointed, and we kind of let them. And it turned into kind of a brawl. We had the 3 dreads tackled, and we brought in the rest of our fleet, which was a couple of Fax. We had a couple of Balgorns, a couple of Shacks. We had an active Rev, as I said. We had, I think that's pretty much it. We had something for Lynx, and then they eventually lit a Sino on us. A few dreads came in, flapped the Sino with a dread, and it just kind of kept going. They kept lighting Sinos on us and bringing in more and more and more. Eventually, they ran out of stuff to bring and Sinos to light. We had to bring in supers to clean up the grid because we couldn't tank that many dreads for that long. But yeah, that was probably a terrible description of the fight. But luckily, I was recording, so.
Oh, is there a video somewhere we could find, or at least link in the show notes?
Unfortunately, not yet, because I'm not done with it. Sorry, it happened just last night.
Right on.
Yeah, is that fight? I just thought to myself, how many more escalations can they pull off? They just kept lighting Sinos and bringing more dread.
Right on.
That's
So
a lot of
that-
capital
that-
to that group too, honestly.
I'm not really familiar with them. I have no idea how many they can put.
I think I've seen kill mills where they had a bunch of Titans on. I'm not sure if it's them.
I think that somebody linked a kill mail of them using supers, but we were away from their homes, so they only had regular capitals.
Well, that seems to bring us up to sort of your activities in the present day. Let's turn our attention towards the future now. We'll do this in 2 parts. First, we'll talk about your personal plans, and then we'll do a more general, what do you think about LoSec in the year 2020? But is there anything about the future of your Dunked and the system of Navula that you guys are willing to talk about?
Well, I think I already said earlier, for me at least, I want to fill in all the holes that have systems in range of us that we don't camp. It is just how you get more kills. You cover everywhere.
Right
Except
on.
nullsec?
Well, null is a bit different for us, but we've had success in Veil and Tribute occasionally with a few Roracle catches by
Yeah.
using characters with less spooky kill boards, just kind of camping systems where people Roracle mine, and I guess some people who were a bit less cautious than others decided to go mine.
Yeah, so that's a point I'm gonna bring up. Future of your Dunked. Me personally, I kind of want to expand our, let's say, dunking operations into nullsec. So basically, I've been kind of active more in nullsec, just a little bit, just fishing around, and I'm really glad that there are a lot of more alliances moving into null because there's just more targets. And I've heard that Brand New Bros is maybe moving into Veil. Maybe I've seen them killing a bunch of structures there.
Brand New Bros is a corporation that recently left Test Alliance Please Ignore, if memory serves.
Yes, and I do really applaud them for doing that and making their own alliance as they're about to do. I just really don't like gigantic alliances with 6 trillion members. I really like, the smaller alliances doing their own thing, having their own brain, and it just kind of takes me a little further back into 2016 when there are like a lot more people roaming around and less huge alliances covering all of nullsec and whatnot.
Let's use that as a transition into our discussion on what does LowSec look like in 2020. And I'm glad you brought up the whole there were more people roaming around in 2016, because we've talked to people who are LowSec pirates, albeit of a different brand than perhaps you guys are. We've also talked to faction warfare pilots, and many of them seem to say that, you know, LowSec isn't dead. There's still content to be had there, and indeed some great content, especially if it's your cup of tea. But as far as activity is concerned, it is considerably less than it used to be. Are you guys feeling the hurt from that? Are you finding that even though you're camping almost every system within range, you're still struggling to find enough content to fill your bellies, so to speak?
Well, that is kind of I can tell you about nullsec really, but lowsec, we really didn't dabble into lowsec until like a year and a half ago. So we kind of have a small window of where we see people roaming around in lowsec and doing things in lowsec.
I would say that in LowSec, at least for us, the content kind of goes up and down. It kind of goes in waves. There'll be some time where you'll have almost nothing to do. You'll be really bored and spending a lot of time playing other games, and other times it's just like constantly like, oh, I've got this, let's go kill this. Oh, I've got that, let's go. Just like, wow, woo, slow down, I'm gonna get too much jump fatigue.
Right on. We seem to be wrapping up here, but before I forget, it's a question I have to ask everyone we have on the show from LowSec. Do you guys mine in LowSec?
I do not personally.
Do you have members who do?
No.
Don't tell him it's a spy question. Where are your miners? Tell me.
I have never mined in lowsec, and I don't think we have members that actually mine.
There's been a little bit of talk of like some mining alts on moons, but I don't know where it's not really gone anywhere because nobody likes mining, and it's, I don't know. I think if anybody in the alliance decides they want to, it's going to so they're gonna get bored pretty quick. That's my thought.
All right, fair enough. Any other interesting stories you guys want to share? Anything we've missed? Anything you can't let go?
I'd have to think about that for a little bit, but no, I do.
All right, well, fantastic.
I haven't really got anything.
I do really want to quickly touch on the interesting situation you guys have with regards to your numbers and your political affiliations, because it's very curious to me. Number one is you drop supers everywhere and you are like literally 10 human beings. So any argument that is, you know, in order to use supers, you have to be in a mega blog. No, you don't. You just have to be careful. I think that is super interesting. And then the other thing is you have friends everywhere. Are you like, do you ever run into situations where you go to drop on a target and then it turns out to be like an alt of one of your dudes or anything like that? Like, do you have strange situations with standings or with friends of friends coming in at the last minute saying, no, don't kill this guy? Does that happen at all?
That happens a lot.
It happens occasionally with people's alts, especially with bait characters that are, you know, meant to look pretty, you know, low key.
Yeah, we have a lot of alts, some that we recycle almost weekly, and that stuff kind of happens a lot. It's bound.
Have you ever dropped on like one of your own alts? I have to ask.
Not me personally, but I know somebody in our alliance who's dropped on somebody else in our alliance's alt, but not killed it because he was on comms.
Yeah, I've been dropped on by a special character with special talents, in our alliance, and and he's like, "Oh, that's," and it was my main too.
Oh. Wait, what?
What's really a main, though? Seriously, with a group like you, do you have a main? It's all just characters that fill a role, right?
We do, but we also see, at least I personally, and this is a borrowed analogy, but see my setup as a deck of cards. You know, you play the right card for what you're doing, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Well, while we were talking, we just killed an Anshar, so.
Oh, really?
Nalvula?
No. In Losec, like a mid out. More like 2 gates and 1 jump out, but yeah.
Well, Z-Kill is dead for me. Can anyone confirm?
It's dead for me. I have a screenshot though if you want.
You killed an Anshar and you killed Z-Kill. Well done. We'll post a screenshot in like Twitch chat or something, and we'll move on to the news while we get that sorted. So, just some things that are worth talking about, or at least that we wanted to discuss. First and foremost, if you haven't heard yet, 3 major alliances have decided to depart from Dead Coalition and join the Imperium. Those are Ranger Regiment, Decry's Dot, and Iron Crown, which are significant portions of the Australian, or more specifically the Chinese time zone within Dead Coalition. Ranger Regiment and Decry's, notably, at least Ranger Regiment, were residents of Tenal, which was recently, they were evicted from by Panda Fam. We've talked about that on the show in the past.
Is that what they're called now? Panda Fam?
That's
what
what
they called Panda Fam now? Makes
Fraternity
sense.
is joining them, yeah. It's Panda Fam.
All
It's
right.
official. We just need some artwork.
Wow.
Yeah. It's unofficially official, I should clarify.
All right.
Also, just in case it ever comes up, this war that's happening where like Panda Fam is invading Tenal and Branch and maybe possibly Declan, it's called the War of... Crap, what did we call it? The War of something aggression. Oh man, I forget my own war name now.
Oh, nice one.
The War of Panda Fam aggression, maybe? We're gonna have to go look this back up, because I had a fantastic name last episode, and it was gonna be the name for the war, because the war needed a name other than the Northern War. Somebody in Twitch chat help me out while we move on with the news. But in any case, RR decries Iron Crown. They are leaving the War of Droneland's aggression. Thank you very much, Deathwinkle. This is the War of Droneland's aggression. And as a result of this War of Droneland's aggression, Ranger Regiment Decries and Iron Crown are leaving their coalition of Dead Coalition, moving down to the Imperium. As a result, there's been a lot of interesting movement, particularly if you take a look at Fade, sort of to facilitate the logistics of moving 3 entire alliances down multiple regions. So that's mostly built up already because the Imperium needed to be able to get their fleets up to defend and or attack Dead Coalition in various points of history. So they have jump bridge networks, etc., making their way up through Fountain and Cloud Ring. But recently, Initiative has been putting up jump bridges throughout Fade and Pureblind as well, or at least expanding their existing networks. So it's a changing landscape, and we've definitely seen a number of casualties trying to move along the way, and we'll keep an eye out for anything interesting that happens there. I'm personally rooting for, like, nothing personal against Ranger Regiment or any of these groups who are moving, but I want the old XIX death move fleet just getting absolutely dumpstered by Skill Yourself. I want that to happen again sometime, because that was an amazing thing to have happen.
That was the C-Tech L fight, in air quotes, that we were at. We were talking about earlier, I think. That was the thing. That was crazy. Just so many supers died. Oh man.
Indeed. All right, well, I think that's basically all we have to report on that particular story. Another big thing that happened that you may not have actually heard about, there was an eviction going on in Wormhole Space. So the story of this eviction was Inner Hell, who are a very well-known wormhole group. They're basically the boogeyman of Wormhole Space nowadays. They go around evicting other wormhole groups. And in this particular case, they were going to evict a group known as Beyond the Breach, who owned a C2 wormhole. And they started the eviction. They had hold control, and they eventually lost hold control in the sense that they allowed people to get in. They allowed Beyond the Breach to bat phone other groups. And so they were able to bring in roughly 80 dudes to bring in reinforcements. Nobody knows. The rumor around the mill is that the person in charge of hold control fell asleep at his keyboard. Other people think some other stuff has happened. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter because 80 dudes got in to help the defense. And in response to that, Inner Hell, of course, regained hold control and then bat phoned in Laserhawks and Hard Knocks, which of course was well received by the rest of the wormhole community. And there was a brawl that occurred. And the thing that I love about this brawl is that it's a C2 wormhole, which for those unfamiliar with the mechanics means that you can't bring any capitals in or out, nor super capitals, of course, but you can build them inside. So the defenders, if they had the pilots, could effectively just hand out capital ships to be flown. And that's what they did. So they had all the pilots from Beyond the Breach, they had their roughly 80 people in reinforcements, and they were handing out carriers. But the defender or the attacking fleets they had Iki Tursas and Lokis and other things like that were defanging the fighters so quick that the defenders didn't run out of carriers, they ran out of fighters. Like, they could still hand out carriers, but the carriers couldn't do anything because they had no more fighters to throw out. And so as a result, they ended up losing the fight, losing their citadels. In fact, some citadels are still dying. There's just so much stuff in that system to die. And the battle report, last I looked at it, was over 350 billion ISK lost in the system. Also worth noting right now, there is the event going on, the Guardians Gala from Wormholes with Love update, which means that any ships which are destroyed in wormhole space drop a significantly higher than normal percentage of their loot. So all those capital ships that died, all the ratting ships that died, anything that dies in that wormhole drops a lot of its loot, which is pretty cool. We got some reports from inside Inner Hell, actually, and as of yesterday, they had looted 150 billion ISK from stuff that had died or been dropped from citadels from the wormhole. So that's pretty cool. Oh yeah, there's an interesting note in Twitch chat I should bring up. Thank you. That you cannot build supers in a wormhole. Not possible. And that's the end of that particular story. I think to round out our news section, we wanted to highlight a couple of upcoming events that you should mark down on your calendars if they are near where you live or within traveling distance. First of all, we've got Eve New Orleans, which we mentioned on last week's show. That's happening on May 22nd, so coming up real quick here. Then we've got Eve North in the summer. It happens on June 26th. Tickets are on sale for that. We've also got Eve Northeast, which is different from Eve North. Eve Northeast is run by Exuki, and it's sort of the camping trip type thing that you've probably heard us mention last year. That one is happening on August 7th this year. Tickets are also available for that. And then finally, rounding out the year, or at least the ones that we have on our list here, is Eve Vegas, which is no longer the CCP-sponsored, like, US event. That's happening in San Diego. This time it's going back to a normal player-run thing. And that is happening on October 23rd. So definitely if you're in those areas or are interested in traveling to those areas to see some other Space Bros, check it out. Go to their relative sites. Links will be in the show notes at talkinginstations.com. All right, let's round out the show with our segment we like to call Something You Might Not Know. This is where the hosts and the guests tell you, the audience, something you might not know in and around EVE Online. Could be mechanics, could be player history, could be lore, whatever. We're just going to tell you something. The thing that I am going to tell you, I actually learned when writing up these show notes. I was talking to a wormholer who was giving me some intel, and we were talking about this new event and how the increased loot drops and wormholes affected the need for evictions or the incentives for evictions. And as it turns out, when you kill a citadel in wormhole space, there is no asset safety. So things which are in it will drop as loot. And what I thought was the case was that it was still subject to the loot fairy, but that is in fact not true. Anything that is in a citadel that could possibly drop as loot will drop as loot. Citadels have a 100% loot drop for assets stored in them. The fit of the citadel itself still is subject to loot fairy, and if you kill any ships that drop, they will have their modules subject to loot fairy, but every single ship stored in that citadel, every single item stored in item hangars in that citadel, all of that drops 100%, which is pretty crazy awesome. And I honestly think that should be changed, but it may be like a spaghetti code thing that isn't why it's not. But there you go. That's something you might not know about EVE Online. Silver, what do you got for us?
I want to piggyback off one of our guests, so let them go first.
Oh, right on. So let's hop on to Dank Guy then, because I think he's who you get a piggyback off on. Dank Guy, what's your tip?
So this is kind of relevant to us, I guess. I don't know. I just thought it was a thing that surprisingly few people know. Did you know that if you have a Black Ops, you can use it to jump to or bridge to an industry Sino as well as a covert Sino? Industry Sino is not just for jump freighters.
Yeah.
I totally did not know that until just before the show. Silver, what were you saying?
Well, there's a couple of interesting applications that go along with that, right? Like one that I'm thinking about is because industrial Sinos go on industrial ships like T1 haulers, but also T2 haulers like deep space transports, which are very tanky. So you can use those as like bait for your Blop Sino and or stick them in the hangar of your Roracle so that if you get tackled, you can spit one out of the hangar of your Roracle, have somebody jump in it, light the Sino, panic. The panic will cover the DST so that you have at least a Sino lit that's invulnerable for 5 minutes or the length of your industry core, your industry invulnerability. So at least you can blops in, covert, the recon ships you need for regular Sinos. So a lot of interesting things you can do there. In fact, I think Ron demonstrated a lot of these things on his stream a couple months ago when this was introduced and proved all of it out. It's kind of crazy, and I think you're right that people aren't really thinking about it or don't know about it, but keep that in the back of your head that industrial Sinos can be Blops bridge to. So your Blops battleship could bridge a Blops fleet to an industry Sino.
All right, Risa, what do you got?
Well, I got nothing. I got nothing so far.
Got nothing? How about
Well, I got the
some
kill mail
history,
for
some
you.
lore?
In the PM, I linked to kill mail. It finally got posted.
And you're actually on it in your Marshal. Can we talk about the Marshal for a minute? Is it actually just a superior Blops, or is it a pick because it's so expensive and everybody likes to put their balls on the table, so to speak?
Well, we like them because they have a lot of slots. They have more slots than a normal Black Ops, and they are, generally more. They can fit more utility, more tank, more damage, and such like that. They are expensive, but I don't know. Whatever is what it is.
How about the Enforcers? I thought the Enforcers were considered like trash tier, but I see you guys use them a lot.
I agree with you. They are. However, they take less SP to fly, so a relatively inexpensive character can use it.
Ooh.
They do also have tackle range bonuses. You can fit an alright armor tank on. I mean, it's not going to be a lot. It's going to be like 60 to 70,000 DH. But it's good enough. These things are basically the best of a kind of crappy bunch as far as recons, ships that can light regular Sinos.
I like them because they have pretty nice scan rays also.
Yeah, that's a hidden benefit, is that it has higher scan res than other recon.
Awesome.
So fast loading, yeah. It's a decent option for lower SP and decent tank, like you said.
Yeah.
That's some bonus tips coming in for you. All right. Rounding out the show, we have an announcement coming up this week. Matterall, if you're watching, let me know what's happening on the Sunday show so I can announce that. But also, coming up this Wednesday on the Wednesday show, we have embittered in an unofficial, I think still, because they haven't declared war yet through the EVE mechanics. So it's an unofficial civil war. A pilot named Juliana Souter. He is currently running for the president of the Galente Federation, which is a thing that actual players of EVE Online can do, and some have succeeded in the past. But he is a member of Valor Accords, otherwise known as GMVA. and he is coming on to talk about his presidency, or rather his candidacy for the presidency, as well as the ongoing civil war between GMVA and Aderon Robotics and some other groups there. So definitely tune in next week to check that out. He'll be telling us his story with regards to the presidency, lore, faction warfare, all of that drama on Wednesday, February 26th at 23:59 Eve time. So definitely, if you can catch it live, tune in, because the election happens on the 28th and the 29th. So if you catch it live, you'll be able to see it before the election happens. But if you wait for the recording, you may not get it in time. So that's the thing. Definitely tune in for that. I'm super excited, but unfortunately I won't be there. So Silver will be holding down the fort for us, which is probably for the best, because he knows way more about faction warfare than I do.
Well,
It'll be
Soder
interesting.
and I go way back. Pizza box. That's all I'm
really?
gonna say. Yeah, but I've known Soder a long time. We hung out in Iceland together for a little bit. He's not a big fan of me at the moment because, drama, but we're, hopefully okay.
Oh, drama. So much fun. Okay, you know what? We can't end the show. You're dunked, guys. Dank Guy and Risa. With the amount of, groups that you guys have been involved in, are there any juicy drama stories you can tell us? I feel like you've got to have been witness to something. Okay, even if you can't tell us the story, can you tell us that a story did happen? Give us something.
Actually, you know what? I did think of something. When my very first alliance, that when we were just about, it was just about in its dying stages, and they were, the leadership was all moving their stuff out of Null, out all to Jita, and well, somebody got his jump freighter clapped by a Nyx, the trick. And he was very displeased about it. Called it an exploit, blah 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 blah, and it was a lot of money he lost, and it was, I don't know, it was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
That's it. Somebody was mad you lost
really
your jump
guy
freighter.
got salty.
But there was some good salt in Discord about it. That's just something I find funny. It's not really
Who was it?
juicy or anything. I don't even remember the name of the character that lost it, to be honest. Maybe I can find the kill mail. Let's see.
Well, he's doing
Fish
that.
around for it. You guys talk about something.
I can announce, at least I think I can. Maybe I'm linking things I'm not supposed to, and this will be cut out in editing. But we will be having CCP on the show, not this Sunday, but the Sunday after. So definitely be sure to tune in there. It looks like we're going to be having CCP Muppet Hunter, which is going to be really freaking cool. As I understand it, he's one of the dudes who works with the ecosystem stuff and the the mineral redistribution. He's one of those folks. So if you're salty and or happy and or just super interested in what's going on with the changes regarding the mineral shortage and all that jazz, tune in not this coming Sunday, but the Sunday after. We should have Muppet Hunter on to have that chat. Did we find the kill mail? Can we give more details, or shall we leave that to the ZK skills of our listeners?
No idea.
All right, fair enough.
I have no idea. I'm pretty sure it was an out of corp alt, and I don't know what it was. This was 2017, early 2017. I have no idea.
All right, well that'll do
funny.
it for.
It was probably funnier to me than it is to somebody who hadn't read the Discord chats.
You're such a tease, Dank Guy.
I'm sorry, man.
That'll do it for this week's episode of Talking in Stations. As I mentioned before, you can see us again Wednesday the 26th, 23:59 Eve time with, I forget his first name, but his last name's Souter, and he's running for president of the Glente Federation. It'll be an awesome show. Also tune in this Sunday. I think we're talking about the Chinese time zone and people like that, but I'm not certain, so don't quote me. But definitely the Sunday after, we're having CCP on. It's going to be really cool. You should definitely be there. That'll do it. See you next time.